Call to order the public safety task.
1 second, Michelle, we're going to make sure it's
That is what I do, the right now.
you do move the mic if it's too close. We're good.
Call to order, Public Safety Task Measure E Citizens Oversight Committee. First order is to nominate chair.
I nominate Michelle Buckner as chair. I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Say nay. No. I appoint Terry Abedican as the chair and vice.
Or nominate.
Nominee. Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carried. Public comment. Any person may directly address the committee at this time on any item not on the agenda or on any item that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for any speaker. Are there any public comments? Approval of minutes from May 10th, 2022, Public Safety Tax Citizens Oversight Committee, as prepared by City Clerk Abigail Pascard. All in favor?
Right, we need a motion.
Motion to accept the minutes. Oh, sorry.
Motion carries.
Oh, then you
Nope.
do the vote.
Two votes?
Yes.
Always
It
vote.
has that little
yes.
cheat sheet right there for you.
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Measure E 2022-23 update and 2023-24 budget planning. Staff report by City Manager Alex Henderson.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Before both of the chiefs come up and give their presentation, I'm just going to give a little background on where the fund is at right now, as well as some background on the actual task itself, as I know we also have some new members of the committee. Each year, we provide an update as part of the requirement of Resolution 2018-051, which developed or created the Citizens Oversight Committee specifically for the purpose of ensuring that any funds spent as part of Measure E were spent on public safety related items. So Kingsburg has in total, when you purchase something in Kingsburg, you're charged a sales tax rate of 8.975%, and that's broken down by 7.25%, which goes to different portions of the state. 6% goes to the state, 1% goes to us in the local jurisdiction known as a Bradley Burns tax. 0.25% goes to a local transportation fund. 1% is the Measure E tax, and then 0.725% goes to Fresno County. Measure E is considered a transaction and use tax, which are allocated to the jurisdiction where the tax product is received or registered, as in the case of a motor vehicle purchase. Because of this Measure E, 1% revenue collections are higher than the 1% local jurisdiction place of sale or use tax that we receive. For example, if a consumer purchases a new motor vehicle and registers it in Kingsburg, regardless of where they purchase it, the city will receive 1% sales tax for that vehicle for the purposes of Measure E. And the same theory applies with destination-based purchases. So if you think of like Amazon purchases, things like that, that became especially relevant during the pandemic when we saw much more online activity. And continue to see that trend just as consumer trends continue that way. So we basically have a year-by-year breakdown since the tax was adopted. So you can see kind of some of the factors that impacted our budgeting from the pandemic to the projections that we received from our third-party tax consultant. So I'm just going to focus on the last couple of years here. So for fiscal year 23, we're projecting revenues to slightly decline based upon last year, and those figures are provided by our sales tax consultant, but I've noted in here that, and you'll see in your packet, that our year-to-date collections, which are only through February of 2023 at this point, are currently 5.5% higher than the same time period last year. So hopefully those trends will continue, and the Avenue projections will be lower, but they are projecting right now some slight downturn over the next few months. For fiscal year 24, we are budgeting a 4.4% increase from the previous year, just for the sales tax collection portion. Again, those figures are by our sales tax consultant. Scroll down a little bit, Abby. This next sheet here is our fund balance summary. So you'll see the last 5 years of activity, broken down in summary format, both for police and fire expenditures, as well as revenues at the top. At the very bottom, you'll see the ending fund balance for June 30th of each year, and so that kind of shows our rolling fund balance from. And then here you have the individual actual worksheets that we utilize. So this is our revenue worksheet. So it will show the main revenue on the top line item there, any interest that we earn through our investments. And then we do have a couple of transfers this year. We are anticipated to receive some reimbursements from the fire department participating in wildland strike team activities. So because those expenditures were borne in Measure E, we'll also be receiving the revenue. And then the police department has 3 new vehicles that are scheduled for next year, where they've received $20,000 grants from the district. So that is the $60,000 that you see proposed for next year. Again, these next 2 pages just show the individual breakdown of expenses by both police and fire. And this next page is the estimate that is provided by our third-party sales tax consultant on what the fund will do through 28-29. Finally, the last page from my report just shows the actual receipts there. So again, we've only received through February. We receive all the, purchases are made in the month that they're made. Businesses send those sales tax receipts to the state vets them, and then eventually will send us back our share. So that's why it's usually a few months. Our final cleanup for the year, actually in August. Chief Dadian and Chief Perkins will provide their specific reports, and our recommendation at the end of it is that the committee review and accept the budget in compliance with Resolution 2018-051, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Police Department presentation by Chief Neil Dadian.
Chief, here's your arrow.
Thanks, Abby. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for your time and attention this afternoon. First, I want to start out by introducing some of my staff who's present. I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Kevin Penley, Lieutenant Sean Stevens, Police Administrative Assistant Mayumi Ploget, and Account Clerk 2 Jennifer Alvarez, which we funded with Measure E, and we also share with the fire department. So they've all been very instrumental in helping prepare this presentation and keeping us going throughout the year on our Measure E expenditures. So let's see here. This is a PDF, right? PDF.
This is a PowerPoint, so you go back and forth.
Okay.
This is what you sent to me, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so start out with our spending plan for this current year, just to give you an overview of where we are at. Capital outlay, we budgeted $350,000 for a remodel of the police station. That work is in progress. That started 6 weeks ago, and it's anticipated to end about the middle of July. So there's a lot of dust and buzz sounds and sawing and stuff going on at the police department, but we're very excited because we're going to have a very workable and usable space afterwards. Our emergency operation plan, which we share part of that cost, is also a work in progress. Our body-worn cameras and dash-mounted cameras, so we funded $80,000. These are usually over a 5-year subscription. The estimates that we got out there, I think $80,000 would probably have covered it. We've also applied for a grant with the Bureau of Justice Assistance, federal government, and we're looking to hopefully get that grant, and then we wouldn't have to spend as much Measure E dollars on that. They generally fund up to half or a certain dollar amount, which we think will be about half for us. So it just depends on how many competitors there are for the grant and things of that nature. But we're hopeful that we'll have a positive outcome on that grant, and if that's the case, then we'll start equipping RSs with body-worn cameras and hopefully dash-mounted cameras. But because of the timing of that, and we're at the mercy of the federal government, we're just waiting on them to act. So we will probably push that into next year, and I'll cover that when we get to the next year's budget. We did a budget for some vehicles. We did receive 2 vehicles, and we have 3 that are carrying over from the current year into next year. It's just a problem buying vehicles, and I buy the hybrid vehicles because we save a lot of money on gasoline, and they are the last of the string to be manufactured, and they have not even, so we ordered them in August, mid-August, and now we still haven't have them manufactured yet. It's just a long wait. So we'll push that into next year as well, as Alex mentioned. We were able to complete equipping every police officer with a Motorola APX 8000 dual-band radio. That was instrumental for us because we have been tasked with a lot of mutual aid requests, and when people ask, we go. We've been to fires all over California, floods in Tulare County, and I don't see any of that ending anytime soon. Everybody's going to need help. So when people call, we're going to respond, because one of these days our hand is going to be out too. So I want to make sure that we have a good reputation out there, and that people know that we have responded to their communities. We've had a lot of positive feedback as well. But the dual band radio has allowed us to communicate and increase our interoperability wherever we go in this state. So that has been quite a positive thing for us when we deploy people out of county. Next, we have our training plan for this year. Just covering some basic things here. We have our specialty and skills training, which has been ongoing, individual assignment and investigative training. So, if we appoint somebody a detective, they have to go to detective school and some other things. I have been planning this English and report writing training for a couple of budget years now. Unfortunately, it's been on hold. One, because we had some compliance things to have our instructor get compliant with post and their requirements, peace officer standards and training. And now we don't have a place to put it on because our police station's tore up. So we're going to push that out until next year, but that is definitely going to happen. We participated in some supervisory and leadership conferences, women leadership conferences, and leadership development, new laws and regulation training. Some of the other specialty things, tactical breacher course and a tactical building search course, that was actually put on specifically for us at my request by a provider, and that is in progress with our people. One of my staff who teaches weaponless defense went to a Gracie jiu-jitsu instructor course, which is a very significant course for those people in that martial arts world. It was actually taught by Hoist Gracie, who was, kind of invented the sport some decades ago. Digital evidence recovery, pistol optics instructor, armor course, surveillance fundamentals, interviewing for school-age children, very important. So we've sent officers to that, homeless liaison officer, and National Association of School Resource Officers. So that's some of the training that Major E has allowed us to participate in that we probably wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Continuing on with training, we've had a number of different leadership training courses, supervisory training courses, been able to send people to the Central California Women's Conference. And the Women in Law Enforcement training, which Chief Janet Davis, retired from the Clovis Police Department and a good friend, she puts that on, and she is a a huge mentor to female officers in the state of California. So I've sent all of my female staff, officer staff to that. And then women's leadership in law enforcement, which is put on by Cal Chiefs. So I currently have 3 female officers, and I have 2 in the hiring pipeline. I'm focusing on hiring female officers, and I want to give them all the tools to, number 1, get into this business, and number 2, stay in this business. So I have a special focus on that. Switching to personnel, we have added 1 police officer during this budget cycle, and 1 lieutenant was promoted during this budget cycle. That brings us up to 2 lieutenants, and that's about where we should be staffed at with command staff. So that's myself and the 2 lieutenants sitting in the room. That's our command staff. Just kind of a recap on what our personnel is. We have 1 professional staff funded out of that. That's Jennifer. We have 10 sworn, 2 police lieutenants, 1 police sergeant, and 7 police officers. With the third-party funding, as Alex mentioned, we have 27 sworn officers, 4 professional staff, 31 full-time employees. We're pretty proud of that. So next year, what's that look like? Staying on task with personnel, we're going to maintain 1 police service technician, 1 professional staff. Our sworn staff, we're going to drop still 2 police lieutenants, 1 police sergeant, but 6 police officers, not 7. The funding is not there. We're going to revisit that at mid-year, but I currently have a vacancy, so we've just basically put that vacancy on hold for the police officer position. And hopefully the funds will allow us to pick that up at mid-year. Okay, so we're also going to pick up, recapping, I should say, not pick up, but recapping what our Measure E funds will give us is, instead of 11 positions, 10. Again, 1 police services tech, 2 police lieutenants, 1 police sergeant, 6 police officers. And then with general and other third-party funds, our staff will be 4 professional staff and 26 sworn, 30 full-time employees. Next year, capital outlay spending plan is continue work with the police station. And again, we're going to roll over those funds until that is completed. It's not an additional $350, it's the same $350, just what we haven't spent yet. The body-worn cameras, as I mentioned, we're going to roll that over, so because I don't think, by the time the federal government figures out if they're going to give us a grant, and then we call our vendors that we decide to select, it's not going to happen before June 30th, so we just assume we're going to roll that into next year. Our vehicles, again, as previously mentioned, we have a carryover on 3 of those into next year. Safety equipment, we're factoring in $12,000, and that is general kind of bulletproof vest replacement, ammunition, helmets, restraints, personal protective equipment, and firearms as needed. So our training plan. Continue on with the specialty training for all peace officers, individual assignment and investigative training. Again, my favorite theme, but doesn't seem to happen soon, English and report writing. Technical and investigative conferences and supervisory and leadership conferences. Again, special focus on women's leadership and development. Plan on sending 6 staff, both sworn and professional staff, to a conference coming up in October. And then continuing on, our law firm that we contract with, Liebert Cassidy and Whitmore, they're really good at risk management and getting ahead of things. They provided a lot of training, and they continue to do that, so we'll continue to participate in their training. The laws in California are really kind of rapidly evolving, and it's hard to stay up with them. Even the attorneys that, when we go attend these trainings, they say, okay, basically start out like, here's what we know today. Tomorrow it might change, but we're gonna continue to stay up on that because obviously we're obligated by law when this legislature mandates something. But, those trainings, you know, have a price to them, and they're attorneys, so it's gonna cost us. But we're gonna keep up on that because that is a priority. So we're also gonna fund part of a police officer's hiring and equipping cost out of Measure E. So both the school districts, the elementary school district and the high school district, have requested a police officer to be on their campuses, one for each district, and we think that's terrific. The high school, here's the short version of it, the high school district and the elementary school district are gonna pick up the full cost of the police officer, and the city's gonna pick up the hiring and equipping costs. So we'll provide the vehicle, the ballistic armor, the gun belt, all the stuff that goes with it, plus the hiring costs, you know, to get there. And then the funding, that's a one-time cost for us, and then the funding comes from the districts. A three-year deal is anticipated with the high school district, and a 5-year deal is anticipated with the elementary school district. So Measure E is gonna fund the materials and services for that, safety equipment, radio, vehicle maintenance, that kind of stuff. Same for the elementary school, and that is it. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention, and especially for your civic participation. This is extremely important to us. We spent a lot of time preparing for this, and we know that the citizens have given us a significant advantage here with the sales tax, and your participation is key to that. So I want to personally thank you for your time today, and I'm available for your questions.
Those 2 officers for the school district, that would be added to the 30 full-time people?
Yes, so then, yes. Well, I take that back. So we have a Prop 56 grant, which is a tobacco tax grant, that ends June 30th. One of those will just transition, so we'll actually add 1 officer, so we'll be back to 31 officers, 1 additional position and 1 transition position. Just moving from one third-party funding stream to another.
Chief, is this individual going to be, as part of the job classification, going to work the ball games? Or the,
Oh, yeah, yes.
So will that be overtime, or will that be?
Yeah, and the districts pick up the overtime, so that'll be in addition to. I anticipate that the officer we have assigned out there will be at all the games and all the events.
Thank you so much for all you do for the community.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm just the coach. It's everybody else who does the heavy lifting, but I appreciate that, and I'll certainly pass that on. Thank you.
Fire Department presentation by Chief Daniel Perkins.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson and members of the board. How are you this afternoon? Hopefully a little cooler than outside. Okay, good afternoon. Again, my name is Daniel Perkins, Fire Chief for the City of Kingsburg. This is our Major League Public Oversight Committee report covering what we did with the money you gave us last year and what we project to do with the money that you are hopefully going to say yes to, as we all hope, for this next year, 23-24. One of the reminders is that we've definitely changed the fire department over the last 4 years of me being here. One of the primary things to do is to concentrate on being a mission-driven organization with clear vision and specific values. So if you come to the fire station, this color scheme, mission, vision, values is on everything we do. It's very direct. And you might ask, what does that have to do with Measure E? Everything. we can't come up with a good direction to spend the monies that are allocated if we don't know what the mission is, what our vision is, and what our values are. So as we've changed, we put a lot of the same things, like the police department has, a lot of that fund that you've so graciously given to us through Measure E, is in specifically building our people so they can provide the best possible services to the community. So we'll talk about that. What we did with Measure E personnel from last year, what we think we're going to do in projects this next year, community impact. What did the money actually do? What specific takeaways? What were the things we did that were concrete that affected everyday life of the citizens in Kingsburg? Lastly, what we plan to do with the money in 23-24, and then we have a multi-year strategic allocation plan. Basically, we have money set aside just like the police department and long-term projects, and that we can kind of see what we have. We have a kind of strategic spending plan with Measure E money. Going at. There we go. Press hard. Okay, personnel. Specifically, we maintained 4 full-time department positions, 3 captains, and 1 full-time administrative assistant to the fire chief. This is Berlinda Hernandez. She is the fire department's fire chief's administrative assistant. Instrumental in, again, making these things happen behind the scenes. Without that person, a lot of things that we do would not happen. So definitely a huge, huge benefit having that. We added 2 part-time and 2 partial positions to assist impacts to fire administration and city finance. And I know that Alma Collado is here today. Without her assistance and without her staff's assistance, none of this very complicated ambulance operation that we have would exist. So again, kudos to her department as well as everyone that she supervises in getting the work done behind the scenes. And as you well know, Jerry, it's a very, very complicated world, probably double complicated now with all the new funding sources that we do have. It pays for 50% of an account clerk. Jennifer, that's you, through Measure E. 17% of an accountant, and she is off today. Yep. 17% of our accountant comes out of Measure E funds. And 1 part-time fire office help, again, instrumental in all of the work that happens behind the scenes to make all of this great stuff actually occur. Okay, so support personnel completing community risk reduction. What is that? What is community risk reduction? It's getting out to the community, identify what are the problems in the community, what things are hurting our citizens, and how can we prevent them. Specifically, we added 1 part-time geographic information services or systems person that helps us in the front office collate all of that data and say, we need to do this because this is what our data shows us is happening. So that is also instrumental, and that's also something that's paid for through funds from Measure E. We use 2 permanent staff members. So that's our firefighter paramedics. One's a paramedic engineer, the other one's a new firefighter EMT that help us do a lot of this community risk reduction effort. So all of their overtime, all of the things that they had to do when they weren't running calls were also paid for through Measure E. So again, what does that have to do with the bottom line for Measure E? We tested 450 fire and life safety inspections that weren't able to be done in previous years because now we have the funds to do that. We also were able to get a hold of and test 664 of the city's fire hydrants. And you may think, well, again, what does that have to do with the big picture? Everything. The direct community impact was that we went from an ISO rating of 3, which is very typical for a city our size. Typically, we were in a high 3, or mid to high 3. So our neighbors, comparatively to the north, city of Selma, they are in a very low 3 due to their water system and not having the support from the community. We went from a 3 to a 2. Now, the higher up you go, your ultimate goal is to get to a 1, which means that we have done everything possible to generate the ability for us to provide fire protection and produce all of the records to show that we're doing that. Without Measure E, we would not have been able to do that. And what does this mean to the folks within the city? It's a 7% decrease in their insurance rates across the board. So it's a huge impact to the community. What is it that we tangibly give back to the community for the monies that you gave us? What is your return on investment? Just to speak a little bit to that, there are only 749 US-based fire departments that are rated in ISO 2. That means we're in the top 2% of fire departments in the United States. So it's something to be kind of proud of. I think our folks have done an amazing job in getting this done. Other specific things, we added that second full-time ambulance with the ability to free up other monies in other areas in the fire department's budget. There were a tremendous number of calls we weren't able to get to before adding that second ambulance. So we're missing about 614 calls in and around 2019, 2020. After adding that ambulance and after a period of watching the statistics go the right way, we went from missing 614 calls to only missing 93 calls. That's a 560% decrease overall in missed calls. Again, what does that mean to you? It's directly related to cardiac arrest saves. Our cardiac arrest saves went up by 50% because our response times were lower. Our availability to run calls was increased because we had that second full-time ambulance. And without Measure E, that would not have been possible. Our ambulance revenue increased by 36% on the backside of that, adding it, which is then also beneficial to the community. It relieves the general fund from having to support the fire department and ambulance operation. It becomes self-funded, which again is very beneficial to the community. Our unit reliability went from 54% to 79%. That means the number of times that there's an available unit to run an emergency call was only 54% in 2019. We went from 54% to almost 80%, which is fantastic for this size of a community. Our ultimate goal would probably be to get it to about 86 to 87%. And it just tells you a little bit about that, whatever that little mumbo jumbo is in there with the data parts. That way it has some credibility. So, what did we actually spend the money on? Maintained a part-time fire department, firefighter, EMT, and paramedic, and single role paramedic and EMT programs. That helped us alleviate a lot of our sick calls, staffing issues, all of that. So that again, put those folks in place so that we can actually start the program and get that second full-time ambulance up and running. We were able to maintain those 2 total positions per day due to that program. And again, that was because of our steady stream of interns and other folks that were drawn to the community from our growth and our positive impact. We did a tremendous amount of work on our radio systems. These are just pictures of the actual radios that are in the apparatus. Much like Chief Dadian and the police department, we want to make sure that we're interoperable in all aspects. So since we are a statewide master mutual aid responder, we can go anywhere in the western United States, and we have all of those radio channels pre-programmed into these modern radio systems. So it makes us much more reliable and much more versatile throughout the state and throughout the United States. We updated 6 unit radios for 3 response units, replaced 3 mobile data terminals. That's that thing on the right that looks like a big computer. It essentially is. It can be undocked from that and operates just like a laptop computer, and then goes back in and does all of the same things that a much more advanced mobile data terminal can do. And there is also replaced 6 handheld dual band radios for a total of $35,000. Personal protective equipment, that's all this kind of tannish yellow gear you see on this firefighter here. From the helmet down to the boots, we purchased 12 additional structural firefighting ensembles. Provide a secondary set of personal protective equipment, which allows our firefighters to be less exposed to cancer-causing materials and chemicals, for a total of $40,000. We replaced a staff vehicle. This is the one that we got in replacement of a staff vehicle. It's essentially the safety officer's vehicle, and will replace other additional things as we move forward in our vehicle replacement plans. This vehicle was $80,000, which basically covers its entire upfit, radios, sirens, lights, all of the special toys that go along with the firefighting operations. Fire hose was a big one. We had fire hose that hadn't been tested, and you can see the dates on this hose. Fire hose has to be replaced every 10 years. As you can tell, we were quite a bit behind the curve. So we replaced a lot of fire hose. 4,000 feet for $40,000, so fire hose isn't cheap. Turnout extractor and dryer. That personal protective equipment that we saw before has to be washed and laundered in a special manner. This extractor dryer allows us to do that in a fairly rapid fashion. We had one when I came aboard. It was at Station 1. It was at Station 2. We know with the expansion of the fire department and the growth of the community, we would need another one. So both stations are basically mirrored images of each other as far as equipment. That way we can launder and dry the firefighters' personal protective equipment very rapidly and get that unit reliability back up. That really speaks to how we protect our community and the value we place on our personnel's health. The dryer and extractor were $35,000, and then we put in a commercial ice maker. You would think that would be like, why is it such a big deal to have a commercial ice maker, and especially when it's $10,000? Today would be the perfect example. On another side note, this does keep our firefighters from experiencing heat stress. We did have one of our firefighters experience heat stress. That hospital stay alone could have been prevented, again, with a more aggressive rehabilitation, making sure that everyone's hydrated. Had we not had this, it would have been even worse. So again, these things that you're giving us the money for have been paying off quite readily. So the Station 2, and that was $10,000. Floor drains. We had a very, very big problem at our Fire Station 1. When it was remodeled, the floor drains were cut in, but they weren't quite angled enough, so water would pool in the center of the apparatus bay, cause a slip, trip, fall hazard. So we basically had the floors professionally epoxy coated with a non-slip surface. It keeps the apparatus from slipping, driving through apparatus bay doors, and our personnel from slipping and having any other issues. That was $15,000. We did the same thing. We took out all of the carpet and all of the porous materials that would be on a floor in a fire station. That way we can actually clean the station more appropriately, especially after our bouts with COVID. That really helped decrease our propensity to have COVID exist somewhere without us being able to clean it. That was $30,000. Training, we did an extensive amount of training, especially over this last year. Safety officer training, three folks went to the 40-hour safety officer class, company officer, 3 of them to 140 hours apiece for company officer, chief officer, 2 of them at 140 hours apiece. Rescue tracks, there were 6 rescue tracks at 100 hours apiece. Fire marshal, 2 at 100 hours, we just finished that class this last week. And CICCS overhead, it's all the folks that get sent out of county, and we were able to kind of parlay that in return revenues when we send people out. They do pay us for going out, and we have those things covered, and we charge an administrative fee, so it's another revenue stream for us, for a total of $9,000. So what are we going to spend our money on this year? Personnel. $440,948 for 3 captains, 1 full-time administrative assistant, the fire chief, 2 part-time, 2 partial positions. And again, to assist those impacts on finance. When we started running a bunch more calls, it really impacted the finance department. We had to be able to offset that and be able to give them the help they needed to be effective for us. So again, you're seeing the results of that right here in front of you. 70% of the accountants, the same thing we kind of spent our money on last year, the part-time fire office help. And then training, $13,500. This is a laundry list of additional training. Safety officer, apparatus engineer, community risk reduction officer, So essentially, which allows us to put these statistics together to show you where we're spending the money and why we would need to spend it there. Where are heart attacks happening? What are our most frequently responded to emergency calls? That's the types of things we need to be able to get to effectively give you the services that we offer currently. Company officer, hazmat technician, chief officer, executive chief officer, rescue tracks, rope, trench, confined space, river flood technician. All of those are in our spending plan for this year's budget. Single unit resource incident management team. Again, as the effects of our recent flooding really pointed out, we need to train our people to be part of the larger incident management team in the region. Makes us a lot more flexible, but also allows us to get FEMA funding and get that returned back to us, so we're not losing money on having these incidents weigh down our city government. Fire Department strategic plan is another one. $30,000 is going to pay for 50% of this strategic plan. This one is from Lincoln, Nebraska. This is one of my mentor fire chiefs. His name is Michael Despain. He's since retired from Lincoln, Nebraska. But essentially putting this strategic plan together in a community risk assessment standard of cover becomes a guiding document. And it allows us to put the plan together to show where the needs are and spend monies to offset those needs and those risks. Communications, again, same thing. More mobile data terminals, more radios, $30,000, continuation of the 5-year upgrade of communications infrastructure. SCBA program is another big one. So SCBAs are the self-contained breathing apparatus that firefighters wear on their backs. This picture here is basically a rapid intervention crew bag. It's an air tank in a bag that a group of firefighters would take into a building to rescue another downed firefighter. We only have one of these bags currently. We need a total of 3. Amazingly enough, the price tag on this object alone is astronomical, $10,000 for each one of them. So again, that accounts for a larger share of our equipment. What seems to be like, wow, that doesn't seem like it would cost that much money, can be tremendously expensive for the fire department. 3 packs and cylinders, additional rapid intervention crew packs, flow test machine and training. We had our flow test folks come out today. They are a yearly service that we pay for. It would be much more beneficial to the department as well as our region to train one of our own people in-house and to have that service come to us so we can have and generate another revenue stream so that we don't have to pay out money, that we can train someone in-house to take care of this life-saving equipment. PPE testing. This NFPA 1851 is a brand new consensus standard, essentially, for all of the personal protective equipment and firefighter ensemble that firefighters wear. We have to get that specifically tested because what we found over time, especially through data and research, is that the inner liner of a firefighter's gear breaks down unbeknownst to the firefighter. And over repeated laundering and just wear, that liner breaks down, and if we don't identify that, that's where the cancer-causing chemicals are seeping in to poison the firefighters. So this is in direct response to that. It's going to cost us about $25,000 to have all of our PPE tested by a specific third-party entity that says, yes, your gear is good to go, or you have to repair these specific areas of it. But again, all into prevention of for our firefighters. Facilities repairs. We have a tremendous number of facilities, areas that we needed attention coming here 4 years ago. We're getting toward the end of that whole cycle. Now we have to repair these really lightweight doors. No, actually, all kidding aside, these doors weigh about 1,250 pounds apiece. Those doors go up and down 23 to 24 times a day. work.
Want me to reshare again?
If you can.
Just 1 second, Chief.
Okay.